Just got back from the gym and then getting a little matcha, and I thought, you know what, you have a lot of questions about studying abroad and in KTH, so Q&A time. Today's setup consists of 3 books. That's the DIY. Perfect. Okay, I have the questions here. Basically, I work as a student ambassador for my university, or now graduated from the university, and I got tons of questions over the past 2 years that I feel like just deserve a whole video that I can just talk and perhaps even link to. So, this is it. First question. Let's just get into it. I'm looking into KTH's MSc Architecture course, and every day I'm more sure that will apply. So, my question is really simple. What do you like about the course? Is it stimulating, satisfying? And also, how do you like Sweden in general? I'm a bit scared that coming from Italy, the cold, dark will be a bit of a shock, and I'm actually pretty thrilled. Okay, so first of all, what do I like about the course? So I did my master's in architecture at KTH, and it's been such a positive experience, honestly, mostly because there's no rat race as I experienced in my bachelor's degree. Let's start with the fact that we don't have grades. So architecture only has a pass-fail on the master's course, and that basically means that you have to fulfill, of course, some requirements, but there's no fight for percentages or an A or so on. So that kind of alleviates the stress and alleviates that kind of peer pressure and peer competition to strive for a grade, you know? So everything that you do in the courses, you do for yourself, and it's kind of satisfying to finally have that just because you enjoy it and just because you want to learn and you want to become a better architect. So that was the biggest part that I enjoyed about studying at KTH and doing my master's in architecture there. Secondly, I would say the kind of freedom that you get with picking what kind of subjects you kind of focus on in a way. And by that I mean you have 10 studios to pick from, and studio is basically like a theme that you would work in design. And you have 10 of those, and at the start of the semester you actually vote which one you want to participate in. And KTH does a pretty good job with matching up what you want to do versus what they can offer. So if there's a studio that you put on number 1 or 2, I mean, the worst I think that I've spoken with my friends is that they got their 3rd option. So they're pretty good at matching that. I think that freedom also really inspired me to work on things that I haven't done before, because there's no stress about being incredible at it from day 1. You're there to learn, you're there to discover what you can really develop. So I enjoyed the fact that I could learn in an environment that was encouraging of one another, and I feel like the atmosphere and the Swedish way was really what made it so enjoyable. I feel like people in Sweden are really good with work-life balance and the mentality of actually, you know, having an end to the day and spending the rest of your time doing other things. I think in my bachelor's degree there was none of that. It was just at least in my case, I was just focused on architecture, didn't do much outside of it. But then in Sweden here, everyone kind of finishes their work at like 5 or 6 p.m. and they go home, or they do another hobby, they go do sports, they do something else entirely. And I think that really gives you enough time to rest and enough time to regain inspiration and keep going without burnout. And then the second question was about, how do you like Sweden in general? And this person was being a bit anxious about being dark and cold. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Winter here is cold and it is dark. And I think the darkness is worse than the cold, because for cold, you can just dress warmly and you're fine. But for the darkness, when the sun sets at 2 p.m. and doesn't rise until like 9, it's a bit rough. But I think the best advice I can have is you have to see it as an experience. If you're here only to study and you're going to stay here longer, I mean, it varies really from experience, but if you're here just for an Erasmus exchange or you're studying here for, I don't know, 2-3 years, then treat it as an experience. You know, this is a very interesting climate to be in. You can have certain like positive aspects of it. I mean, I haven't done this yet, but people go, you know, to see Northern Lights, or they go into the north of Sweden to experience like true winter. So you can treat it as a thing that you want to see and experience and feel and remember. So the best kind of way to get about the winter blues is definitely keep your schedule full with activities that actually bring you joy. Definitely have some sort of fitness schedule. I would really recommend that, whether it's the gym or going on a walk every day, no matter the weather, or if it's meeting friends for like a volleyball game or something. Keeping yourself active, keeping yourself socializing, and keeping yourself busy with things that you really enjoy apart from university will make that time go by. Swedish people, that might be a general statement, but I feel like Swedish people are really good at making things cozy rather than criticizing that something's cold or dreary. So if the weather is bad, you can definitely enjoy like the warmth of the cafes and then the lights that are all over the city in Stockholm. So I wouldn't really worry about that, especially if you're coming from a different climate. It's going to be such a shock that you're going to be more of embracing what's happening rather than running away from it, because it is an experience, as I said. So that's the answer for that. Okay. Hello, Sara. How's life in the university? I hope you're doing well. Tell me more about the university. So that's a very general statement, but what I can tell about KTH is that in rankings, it is one of the top schools in Europe, one of the top technical universities. I mean, in the most recent rankings, I think they're in the top 200 or top 100 even. I have to double check this, but the information will be here. So even on paper, it's a very recognizable school. The school and the university has 5 different schools, which basically group together programs of similar industries. For example, the architecture school is at the Architecture and Built Environment School, ABE for short. And that also includes civil engineering, real estate, I think, and so on. So that's kind of the technicalities of the university. When it comes to the physical building, there's multiple campuses. I actually attended only the main campus, which is north of the city. It's near parks. It's a beautiful area. There's tons of little cafes and little spots around, so I really enjoyed that. There's also an on-campus gym, which personally I found was great just because I could go there after class or before class. So that's a bit about the campus itself. Now to talk about architecture school specifically, all the teachers, from what I know, were or are practicing architects, which was a great perspective to have since they were, you know, working in the industry as they're being a teacher in your group or studio. And it was really inspiring to hear what they're working on at the moment, and also gives you some kind of perspective of what your career might look like. And these people, you know, have experience that you will have in the future, so they're always open for questions, and I really like that. I think it's important to say also, coming from a Polish background, the relationship between the teacher and the student is so much more casual here. So I don't really turn to a professor saying, "Professor, blah, blah, blah." I just say, your name, whatever. So it's so much more down to earth and it's more level. So the student doesn't feel like there's this hierarchy. Of course, you want to show respect and you want to learn from this person. So there's a lot of dynamic in that way, but there's no hierarchy of, "Ooh, I'm the teacher, you know less, blah, blah, blah." So it's really, really casual in that way. So that's a lot of babbling, but I hope that kind of explains the basics. This question, I'm a master's student from Germany. I'm currently in the process of applying for an exchange semester. I need to have a list of courses or studios, and I cannot find them on the website. As to the courses in architecture school, you will have 2 classes or 2 courses per semester, and that's it. So you'll have one studio class and one seminar class. The studio class is more of a design-focused class, and then the seminar is more theoretical or more research-based. And we don't have those listed on the KTH website because they change every year. So usually you'll have 10 studios to pick from and 10 seminar courses to pick from, but those change yearly. I think KTH posts them, or KTH Architecture School posts them on a website called Issue. I'll leave it in the link down below so you can check it out. But I think they update it every year, so that's why it's not listed on the website. But it's really interesting to have a look to see work of other students, and you might be lucky after attending that your work is going to be shown to the next year as an example. So yeah, I'll leave that resource below. This question is in Polish, but I'll translate. Basically, this person is asking that they're starting their master's degree in September, and they want to know what the classes are like and what that looks like in the schedule. So as I said, you have 2 courses per semester, and that means that you have 1 studio class and 1 seminar class. And for the studio, it really varies what teacher you have. Sometimes you'll meet up with the teacher twice a week, sometimes once a week, but I would basically say not more than 3 times a week, where you have mandatory classes. So sometimes you have a lecture or a meeting, you might have tutorials, which basically means that your teacher will discuss your work and give you feedback. But you won't have more than 3 meetings per week. And as to the seminar course, it's usually structured that you have 1 day that's dedicated to that, so it's half a day. It might be 2 hours, it might be 1.5, again, depends on the class, but it's usually just once a week. So the master's course is very flexible, you have lots of time for yourself, and the rest of the time of the week, let's say that you have 4 classes, because you have 3 let's say 3 classes for your studio and then 1 for your seminar. The rest of the hours of the week are up to you how you use, because in Sweden there's a lot of people that do their masters when they already have a family, where they already work full-time, so there's a very flexible schedule for you to adapt to, and as long as you get your assignments done in time, it's really not a big deal. So you kind of plan out your own week. And also another question is, are all classes mandatory? The 4 or 3 classes you'll have per week, I would say, are mandatory. Also, you're attending a university for a reason. You don't want to be skipping class for something that you've worked so hard to attend to, wouldn't you? I mean, that's my opinion, but yeah, I would say that they're pretty mandatory. There's another question here from someone from the United States. I'm wondering if the program is a professional degree. Does it lead to an architecture license in Sweden? And would that license allow me to work as an architect in other Scandinavian countries as well as EU countries? I actually got the same question this morning, and I was wondering about this because from what I experience and what I understand, since you'll start your master's degree here with your completed degree, you'll have the same qualifications as everyone else that has been doing their architecture degrees from scratch in Sweden. You'll end up with the same document, so you're just as eligible to apply to be a licensed architect. And from what I've known, in Sweden, the title architect is actually not protected, and what that means is it's not like legally bound to specific requirements in legislation. So to answer that question, once you finish your master's degree in Sweden in architecture, then you have to gain at least 2 years of work experience in an architecture office or studio. And after that, you can apply to the architecture board. And I think you have to pay a membership to be part of the union, and there's a few more details. But that basically allows you to be qualified in Sweden. And those skills and those degrees are transferable to other countries, but because such a country-specific course and education, then you have to just have a look at what the requirements are. I know that if I wanted to be, for example, qualified in the UK, I just looked this up this morning, then I would have to take an exam that would kind of legitimize my education in Sweden. So there's always a way, but you can double check everywhere else. Next question. Hi Sarah, I've recently been put on the wait list for the architecture master's course, currently reserved 25. Do you happen to know how many people are in the program in total? I would like to know my chances. So, I've been working with the international relations team, and to be quite frank, from what I've heard, the chances of getting off the wait list are pretty slim because in Sweden, the system is that the people that receive the offer have that offer until the first day of university. And on the first day of university, that's when you get registered as a student. So whoever just doesn't show up is not registered. So that means that very little people actually mark if they've rejected the offer. Because in Sweden also, just a side note, once you get an offer at university, you don't have to do anything. I mean, as of now, okay? Double check if you're watching this in the future. But when I was applying, when you got an offer, you just had to show up on day one. You didn't have a big green button that said accept offer. So that means that people that rejected or didn't want to go to the school at the end of the day, they didn't have to do anything. So actually this wait list wouldn't shift or wouldn't change because people wouldn't have told the school that there's an empty slot or someone's like backed out. So there's that. But you can always contact the school. Again, this is going to be a theme in my videos. Just contact the school. If you have any questions, you can always send an email. I mean, yeah, there's lots of people out there that have those answers and can help you in these situations. And when answering the question of how many people are in the program, it's about 200 because in the 10 studios that I mentioned, there's about 20 something people. So there's about 200 plus students in general. For this video, I'll answer one more question. And this is, I have a question about creating a portfolio. Do you have any good tips or advice on how you can share, that you can share with us? I'm aiming to get into KTH next year, so insights on how to tailor my portfolio would be greatly appreciated. My advice is going to be annoyingly simple, okay? I know that if you've watched any portfolio video, you might have heard this before, but basically stick to the outline that the university requires. That's the biggest piece of advice, because if you go onto the architecture page on the KTH website, you will see specific requirements for your portfolio. And I'll maybe show it over here what the current portfolio requirements are. Double check it if you're watching in the future, okay? Just a side note. But yeah, the portfolio, stick to the rules. If it says 7 pages, don't send 8. Okay, if it says 7 pages, don't send 3. Okay, this is really basic information, but you better stick to the rules because the people working in admissions office are just strict like that. You don't want to be rejected for silly mistakes, you know? So if it says anonymous, keep it anonymous. Don't have your name in there. If it says have descriptions, have it. If it says don't. Basically, whatever it says on the website, stick to it, okay? But that's also to say that whatever is not written on the website also means that either, you know, you have the freedom to it or better to just leave out. And more general advice is just show your skills, okay? So if you have, you know, work that you've done in model, if you've done 3D modeling, if you've done just 2D drawings, axonometrics, whatever it is, show the scope and range of your skills and show the scope and range of your style if you have one. So I think that's the best piece of advice, just kind of show what you're capable of, and that's what they want to see. They want to see that you're interested, that you're engaged, and have attention to detail. If you have multiple projects that you want to show, maybe pick a certain aspect of those projects to present. So for example, one project will be more technical, one will be more artistic, one will be, I don't know, more conceptual, and so on. So just show the variety, because you probably have a lot of work that you can just show off. Yeah, but that's gonna be it for this Q&A video. Thank you for watching. I hope I answered some of the questions that you probably had about studying architecture at KTH, and I'll see you in the next one because I have tons of more questions. So if you have more, also leave them in the comments. But another Q&A will definitely show up very, very soon. Okay, that's all from me.